The billionaire, Alexander Steele, was a man whose name commanded boardrooms, filled financial headlines, and sent stock markets shifting with just a raised brow, but in the quiet moments of his opulent mansion, surrounded by crystal chandeliers and marble floors that reflected the life he had built, he often wondered if anyone saw him for who he truly was beyond the gold and power, beyond the numbers and the black cars lined in his driveway. Born to nothing, rising from streets where he sometimes slept on park benches and ate from shelters, Alexander carried in his heart a secret desire, not for more wealth, for he had more than enough, but for truth, for companionship, for loyalty that could not be bought. He had been betrayed before, friends who only called when deals were ripe, women who fell for the shine of his fortune but never the man himself. And so, one quiet evening as the moon bathed his glass-walled study in silver light, he devised a test, a daring experiment, one that would reveal the true heart of those around him. He selected 4 women, each from a different place in his life: Veronica, a glamorous model who graced his arm at charity galas; Serena, a cunning businesswoman who had long sought to merge her empire with his; Isabella, a socialite admired for her beauty but whispered about for her extravagance; and finally, Maria, his quiet maid, a woman who cleaned silently in corners, never demanding, never boasting, her eyes carrying the humility of a life lived in shadows. To each, he would give a black credit card, limitless, powerful, a tool that could unleash greed or reveal character. Buy whatever you want, he would say, and I will see your heart through your choices. The next morning, the 4 women were summoned to his grand living room, where the fireplace roared like a beast and rare art hung on the walls as silent witnesses. Veronica arrived first, draped in diamonds that sparkled like fireflies. Serena entered with a sharp suit and a sharper smile. Isabella floated in with perfume that lingered like smoke, and Maria came last, her uniform crisp but simple, her hands folded nervously as though she had wandered into a place she did not belong. Alexander sat on a leather chair, the 4 black cards on the table before him, and as they gasped at the sight, he explained, his voice steady, commanding attention. Each of you will take 1 card. There are no limits. Spend freely, buy what you want most. In your choices, I will see who you are. The women exchanged glances, some excited, some calculating, some hesitant. Veronica snatched her card with a laugh, already envisioning the luxury boutiques on Fifth Avenue. Serena took hers with a glimmer in her eyes, plotting investments, perhaps even acquisitions to prove her strategic brilliance. Isabella nearly squealed, clutching hers like a golden ticket to endless indulgence. Maria reached last, her fingers trembling as she touched the card, uncertain why she, a maid, had been included in such a game. Alexander leaned back, watching, his heart torn between curiosity and fear, for he knew this test would not only expose them but expose his own longing for truth. Within hours, the women were unleashed upon the city. Veronica was spotted in high-end jewelry stores, her laughter echoing as she tried on rings bigger than her eyes. Serena sat in a private banker's office, discussing stocks and global takeovers, wielding the card like a sword. Isabella danced through designer boutiques, her arms piled with gowns and shoes, oblivious to the price tags. Maria, however, did not head to the places one might expect. She walked the streets quietly, card in hand, passing store windows filled with temptation, yet stopping at none. Instead, she paused at a small bakery where children pressed their noses to the glass, yearning for treats they could not afford. Maria entered, her heart pounding, and bought every pastry, handing them out to the children outside, their smiles lighting up the gray morning. She moved on to a shelter, where weary mothers held hungry babies. She purchased food, blankets, medicines, filling the place with relief. She found a school where desks were broken and supplies scarce, and she ordered new chairs, books, uniforms for every child. All the while, she kept no record, no announcement, no selfies or boasts, only quiet giving, as if she had been waiting her whole life for a chance to ease the burdens she once carried herself. Meanwhile, back at the mansion, Alexander sat before the fire, wondering. He imagined the 3 women surrounded by glittering bags and wealth, but Maria remained a mystery to him. Hours turned into the evening, and one by one, the women returned. Veronica burst through the doors first, jewels dripping from her arms, declaring, "Look, Alexander. This is what a woman of your stature deserves by your side." Serena followed, handing him documents of acquisitions, boasting, "I multiplied your fortune. Imagine what we could do together." Isabella spun in with bags of couture, twirling like a princess, sighing, "With me, you will always live in beauty." Alexander listened, nodding, though inside he felt the emptiness of their choices. Finally, Maria entered quietly, carrying nothing but a receipt folded neatly in her hand. The other women laughed, mocking her, whispering that she must have been too timid to spend. But Alexander's eyes fixed on her, sensing something deeper. "And you, Maria?" he asked softly. Maria hesitated, then unfolded the receipt. It was long, filled with purchases that seemed odd to the others, hundreds of loaves of bread, boxes of clothes, school supplies, medicines, cribs for infants. I didn't know what to do with so much," she whispered, her voice trembling. "So I thought, if I have been trusted with this card, maybe I should use it to help those who have nothing. Forgive me if I misunderstood your request." Silence fell. Veronica rolled her eyes, Serena scoffed, Isabella laughed cruelly, but Alexander rose slowly, his breath caught in his chest, for he felt something he had not felt in years: truth. He walked to Maria, taking the receipt in his hands, his eyes moistening as he read the endless list of selfless choices. His voice cracked as he said, "Maria, you did not misunderstand. You are the only one who understood." The other women protested, angry, insisting that their choices reflected power, beauty, wealth. But Alexander silenced them with a gaze, his mind racing, his heart pounding, for in that moment he realized his test had revealed more than he expected. He saw greed, ambition, vanity, and then he saw compassion. And compassion, he knew, was the only thing that money could never buy. Yet as he stood there, moved beyond words, he also knew this was only the beginning. Tomorrow, he would reveal to them the true meaning of this test, and the consequences of their choices. Little did they know, Maria's actions that day would ripple beyond anything they could imagine, shaking not only Alexander's heart but the world that watched him. And as our story unfolds, dear viewer, if you too believe that kindness has more value than gold, stay with us, because in Chapter 2, the billionaire will reveal his decision in a way that leaves everyone, including Maria, absolutely speechless. So don't forget to subscribe, because you won't want to miss the ending of this journey. The morning sun rose over Alexander Steele's mansion, its golden light piercing through the vast glass windows and spilling onto the marble floor like a silent witness to the storm of emotions that had brewed the night before, and though the city outside buzzed with life, inside, a quiet heaviness filled the air as Alexander prepared to reveal the true outcome of his test, the decision that would change not only the lives of the four women but his own. Veronica sat poised in a velvet chair, her diamonds glittering in the sunlight as though they were mocking the simplicity of Maria's folded hands. Serena leaned back confidently, her legs crossed, her sharp mind calculating every possibility of what her investments would yield. Isabella hummed softly, twirling one of her designer scarves between her fingers, smug in the belief that beauty could conquer any man's doubts. And Maria, the maid who had spent her sleepless night praying she had not embarrassed herself, sat humbly on the edge of her seat, her eyes lowered, the quiet strength in her demeanor contrasting sharply with the arrogance around her. Alexander entered the room, no entourage, no assistants, just himself, and the room fell silent under the gravity of his presence. He placed the 4 black cards back on the polished table and rested his hands against the wood, his gaze moving across each woman, lingering on Maria last, as though her presence alone steadied his heart. "Yesterday," he began, his deep voice filling the room, "I gave each of you something few in this world will ever hold, a card without limits, a symbol of power, a key to doors that most people can only dream of opening. I told you to buy what you want, and in your choices, you revealed who you are." Veronica smiled, expecting praise, Serena straightened with anticipation, Isabella's lips curled in a knowing smirk, but Maria sat still, as if bracing herself for dismissal. Alexander's eyes narrowed slightly as he turned to Veronica first. You spent your gift on jewels, shiny, empty stones. Do you think that reflects strength, loyalty, or depth? No. It reflects vanity. And vanity fades. Veronica's smile faltered, but she tossed her hair defiantly, unwilling to show defeat. Then his gaze moved to Serena. You invested, you multiplied. Clever. But your choice was not born of generosity, it was ambition. And ambition without compassion is dangerous. You see numbers, not people. Profit, not purpose. Serena's jaw tightened, her pride pricked, but she remained silent, though her eyes burned with anger. Then Alexander looked at Isabella. You spent your gift on gowns, perfumes, and luxuries to adorn yourself. Beauty, Isabella, is not a crime. But beauty without soul is nothing but a mask. You revealed emptiness, and emptiness cannot build a future. Isabella laughed nervously, waving him off as though his words were jest, but her cheeks flushed red with embarrassment. Finally, he turned to Maria, and the room seemed to hold its breath. And you, he said, his voice softening, you spent not on yourself, but on others, on children, on mothers, on schools, on those who have nothing. You carried no bags, wore no jewels, signed no contracts. You carried only receipts filled with hope. Maria, you are the only one who understood the meaning of wealth. It is not about what you keep. It is about what you give. Tears welled in Maria's eyes, her lips parting in shock, while the other women protested, their voices rising in outrage, declaring it unfair, claiming that Alexander had misled them. But Alexander raised his hand and silenced them with a single command of his voice. Enough, he said, and his tone carried the weight of 1,000 storms. You see, I did not give you those cards to see how much you could spend. I gave them to see how much you could reveal of yourselves. For too long I have lived surrounded by people who love my money, not my soul. And now I see the truth. The women fell silent, though bitterness brewed in their eyes, but Alexander walked slowly toward Maria, and as the sunlight struck his face, it revealed not just a billionaire but a man stripped of his armor, vulnerable, raw, and real. Maria, he said, standing before her, his voice trembling with sincerity, you were never just a maid in this house. You were an angel in disguise. Yesterday, with one simple choice, you reminded me of the boy I used to be, the boy who once slept hungry but dreamed of helping others if he ever made it. You gave me back that dream. And for that, I am forever in your debt. Maria shook her head frantically, her hands waving as though to push away his praise. No, sir, I only did what felt right. Please, don't say such things. I am just your servant. But Alexander reached for her hand, lifting it gently, and said firmly, you are not my servant. You are my equal. In fact, you are more, because you carry a heart richer than mine has ever been. Gasps filled the room, Veronica dropping her jeweled bracelet in shock, Serena muttering under her breath, Isabella nearly stumbling from her seat, but Alexander ignored them, his focus only on Maria. He walked her to the center of the room, then turned back to the others. The test is over. And now, so is the charade. I have no need for companions who chase wealth, who worship beauty, or who hunger for control. What I need, what I have always longed for, is truth. And in Maria, I have found it. His words echoed like thunder in the hall, and as the others realized their defeat, they left one by one, their pride too wounded to endure. The doors shut behind them, leaving Alexander and Maria standing alone, the silence now filled not with tension but with the fragile beginning of something new. Alexander turned to Maria once more and smiled, a smile not of power but of peace. From today, he said gently, your life changes. You will no longer carry a maid's uniform, unless you choose it. You will stand by my side, not behind me. Together, we will take this wealth and turn it into something greater than ourselves. Will you join me? Maria's tears spilled freely now, her knees weakening as she whispered, I don't deserve this, but Alexander lifted her chin with a tenderness that silenced her doubt. It's not about deserving, Maria. It's about destiny. And sometimes destiny chooses the humblest hearts to carry the greatest crowns. Outside, the city roared with life, unaware that inside the mansion, a billionaire had been transformed not by power, but by the love of a maid's selfless heart. And so, dear viewers, as this story closes, remember this: wealth can buy jewels, beauty, and power, but only kindness can purchase eternity in someone's heart. If Maria's choice moved you, if Alexander's realization touched you, let this story be a reminder that in a world obsessed with having more, it is those who give more who truly shine. And if you believe that compassion can change lives, just as it changed Alexander's, then make sure you subscribe right now, because more stories like this await you, stories that will inspire, stories that will remind you of the power of humility, and stories that may just change the way you see the world forever.